I would like you all to travel east. After about half a day's journey, you will encounter a ruined fort that recently entered my possession. If you can clear it out and fix it up, then you can call it your own as the heroes of my realm. Hello, and welcome to Tuna's Tales. This time on Pondering Monsters, we'll be covering the Force of Iron from MCDM's new monster book, Flee, Mortals. This creature is a CR10 elemental, is composed of both fire and earth elements, and as you can see, it looks like a four-armed centaur made out of metal. Overall, this creature is fairly versatile in combat due to the ability to change aspects of itself on the fly. Very fitting that it has the brute creature role in my opinion. As to what a creature role means for your party, well, I'll be talking about that a little later. For now though, if you're curious how your party might interact with a creature this powerful, then stick around as we get into it. We join our heroes after having just had an audience with a noble. They informed our heroes that there's an old fort, not too far away, that was abandoned and has since fallen to ruin. Due to recent events, they would like the heroes to clear it out of any dangerous creatures. In exchange for doing so, the noble will give them ownership of the fort and the land. Excited to have a place they can fix up and call their own, our heroes accept the job and set out. Upon arriving at the ruined fort and making their way inside, they're greeted by a red haze with a metallic smell about the air. It doesn't take them long to notice all the old and rusted iron statues laying around either. Their design also catches the eye of one of our heroes. It looks like a rider on a horse, but there are too many arms laying about. Curiously though, it appears that most of these statues are all placed in front of a particular door as if to block it. Intent on doing their job, our heroes start to clear the pile away from the door so they can see what lies beyond. However, their focus on the task at hand means that they don't see the rusted iron statue approach them until it's close enough to point a sword at them. As it does so, it exclaims that their dishonorable treachery won't go unpunished.
Uh-oh, looks like they're in a bit of trouble.
They very well could be if they can't talk themselves out of this one.
Wait, there doesn't have to be combat here?
Not at all. Combat is an option, but I think if you can telegraph to your party that they can talk their way out of this, then you'll end up with a more interesting outcome.
What do you mean?
Well, if your party doesn't fight the Force of Iron, then when they clear out the fort, it can offer to stay there as a sort of watchman for the party. It might know things about the past history of the lands, can potentially give quests, and if the party manages to fix up its rust problems, then it might even be able to help in a combat or two down the road.
Neat. I can't help but wonder though, why would a noble just give away land like this?
Oh, that's an easy one. Because adventurers bring a level of protection to wherever they go. If you have a world where adventurers are a known thing, then a noble might see an up-and-coming group as a good investment to have around. If something threatens the lands, then they can call on the heroes to help in protecting their home.
Of course, some light bribery. I like the way nobles think.
How am I not surprised to hear that?
So why does the fort need to be cleaned out now? Why not sooner?
Let's see. Maybe the noble didn't think anyone could reasonably clear it out before your party came along. Or they just learned of it and the party happened to be in the right place at the right time. Oh, another option could be that the noble was just gifted the land as part of a peace treaty and now needs someone to manage it. End of the day, just use whatever you need to make sense of the situation.
I know you said they didn't need to fight this creature, but what if I want them to?
Then just push them towards combat by having the Force of Iron attack them.
Yeah, but CR10 is too strong for a low-level party, isn't it?
See, that's where the rust comes in. This creature is made of iron. He and his kind ran afoul of some rust, is the last one standing, and is weakened to boot.
Wait, how did a living creature made of iron manage to rust and stay rusted?
Oh, maybe there's just some rust dust or something in the air.
Where did this rust dust come from?
If I had to guess, I'd say maybe whatever's behind that door that's all barricaded up.
What's behind the door, Tuna?
Any more questions for me, Red? No? Alright, then let's look at tying this together.
Tuna.
When it comes to this, all you need to get started is a noble of some sort. Ideally, the party would have also just completed a task that gets them a little bit of recognition. Maybe stopping an iron golem from flattening a town. The noble can then call on the party to have an audience with them because they want to reward them for their good deeds, or because they like the cut of their jib. When the party shows up is when the noble will tell them that they have some work for the party that could pay out big. The noble informs them that there's a fort, not too far away, that has fallen to ruin and they're offering it to the party. All they have to do is go and clean it up. Afterwards, the noble will grant them ownership of the fort and the ability to call themselves the heroes of the realm. Once your party accepts the task, they can set out when they're ready. If anyone in the party asks to roll insight, then you can tell them that this individual is very much making an investment in the party should anything bad happen to the lands. Characters from nobility should also be aware that this isn't an unheard of practice. Travel to the tower can contain whatever extra encounters you want and can be as far away as you want. In my opinion though, the final location shouldn't be too far away from a town or settlement of some sort. Having one nearby opens all sorts of options for quests, entertaining NPCs, leverage against the party, etc. Once the party arrives at the fort, they get to see the current state of it. As you all arrive in front of the stone structure, you can see that it indeed has fallen to ruin. Some of the walls are crumbling, the grounds look overgrown, and you're pretty sure that that's a tree growing out of the roof and not a courtyard. If you try the front door, you quickly learn that it's locked, but realize that that won't be an issue, as there is a hole large enough to squeeze through nearby. Once they make their way inside and start looking around, they can see that the inside of the fort isn't that different from the outside. Basically, vegetation and wildlife is growing everywhere. Maybe they enter a room and find some deer grazing, a bird nest, or a little family of raccoons. However, the most interesting thing that they can see are the numerous rusted iron statues that are scattered throughout. These statues are so rusted that they're all scattered about in various pieces. If someone tries to piece one together, they can quickly find out that it looks like the statues were of a horse and its rider, except there is no sign of a horse head and there are too many arms. The most curious thing about all of this, though, is that the largest collection of these statue pieces are all piled together in front of one door within this fort. As you all continue exploring throughout the structure here, you keep finding more of these iron statues. Curiously, though, they all seem to be piled up in a heap in front of a door, almost as if they were trying to block it. These statues are, of course, the remaining pieces of these creatures, as this fort was once protected by a small group of elementals called Forces of Iron. Towards the end of the fort's usefulness, something moved into the basement. The fort was abandoned, and the elementals were left behind to fight off the invaders. In case you haven't guessed it yet, these invaders were unfortunately rust monsters. Plus a little something extra if you really want to throw your players for a loop. But I'll be covering that in my next video. For now, your party will hopefully start to disturb the pile of dismembered iron statues. If they do mess with the pile, then the last surviving Force of Iron will make themselves known. They'll approach the party, point their rusted sword at them, and ask them something like, by whose authority do they think they are? If you lead with a threatening yet communicative approach here, then your players should pick up that they can talk their way out of this. If they choose to fight at this point, then that's on them. As you turn to look at the source of the voice that just called out to you, you see a large centaur-like creature made entirely out of iron. It appears to be covered with rust patches and is pointing a sword at you. I ask again, under whose authority do you disturb my brethren? Do you seek to unleash the hidden beast upon the lands? If your party starts chatting here, then after some successful persuasion rolls, I'd say they could have convinced this elemental that they mean no harm and are here to just check out the fort. At this, the Force of Iron could warn them of the beasts in the basement, creatures with the ability to turn iron to dust. After which, the party can learn that the Force of Iron's brethren gave their lives to block off that door, but that if the party can deal with the beasts, then it would recognize them as the rightful owners of this fort. It can even tell them that, should they survive, it will gladly serve them, as best it can in its current state, as a watchman for their new home. With this, your party can prepare and head down into the Underfort to confront the dreaded rust beasts. But that will have to wait, as we should probably talk about what to do if your party does choose violence here. If things go as planned, then your party shouldn't need to fight this creature. But if they do, or if you want them to fight it, then we should know how to make this a fair fight. Being CR10, this creature makes for a deadly fight at 5th level, easy at 10th, and trivial at 15th, so we have some work that needs doing. First up though, let's talk about what that brute creature role means. Creature roles are a tag introduced in Flea Mortals that sorts monsters into roles. These are things like Commander, Skirmisher, Controller, and their purpose is to help GMs know the best way to use a creature in combat. The Force of Iron has the Brute role, which means that it excels at being a tanky heavy hitter. This means that when it comes to pitting this creature against a 5th level party of 5, we're looking at a deadly fight with a creature that can take and deal a lot of damage. But what if we don't want to cause a TPK with this? Well, if you described this creature as being rusted, then you've already done yourself a favor there. Because of the rust, its armor and weapons are now weaker. In its weakened state, we can drop the AC to about 14 or 15, drop the 2-hit down to a +5, and for added measure, put its hit points at about half of what it normally has. This should be a tough fight, but not impossible for the party. Remember, we don't want to tire them out before they've even fought the rust monsters. For 10th level parties though, I'd recommend not changing anything other than maybe giving it more hit points. Its brute roll should serve it well here. However, if you want or need it to be tankier, then you should know it has bonus actions that can give it reckless attack, more AC, or up to 5 CR10 minion creatures to aid it in combat. Don't freak out at the CR10 minion thing, by the way. They're minions, so they go down pretty quickly. This just leaves us with 15th level parties, and to that I'd recommend simply adding in one more Force of Iron. Additionally, elementals from Flee Mortals have the ability to buff other elementals that are near them. Add in a Force of Earth or Crux of Frost, and combat gets ramped up to a nice challenge level for late game parties. And now you have a way to give your party a place of their own with their own Walking Iron Butler. Of course, this encounter can fold nicely into using the Stronghold rules from Strongholds and Followers, also by MCDM. And if you really want to run this creature against your party, even if they've talked their way out of it, then a simple option would be to have this Force of Iron challenge the party to combat to judge if they're worthy enough to fight the beasts in the basement. For now though, if you liked this encounter and want to see more like it, then leaving a like and subscribing would be much appreciated. And if you have suggestions, questions, or just want to tell me how one of my encounters went at your table, then you can find me in the comments below. With that, thanks for letting me talk at you all, and until next time, keep pondering.